Hi, I just want to do a quick video. Got a message that they were talking about that it's rational once you learn critical thinking skills. It's rational to become an atheist. Is it really? So let's start from the beginning. So atheist or agnostic. Either you're just ignoring the ultimate big question, which is where did we come from, or you're choosing to believe something that's nonsense. For example, let's start with the Big Bang. The Big Bang, you have to believe that something came from nothing. That's not scientific and can't be reproduced, which is part of the scientific method. On top of that, you have to believe that these things just exploded randomly, which also goes against the laws of thermodynamics, which is not scientific, which is not, and it can't be reproduced, which is also part of the scientific method. So two major huge events just happen randomly, and you can't prove it, and there's no way to reproduce. Which, how is that rational? Just tell me, I don't get it. On top of that, how life began. There's so many circumstances, everything from the nuclear law that had to be in place, the Earth's tilt, the distance from the Earth, all these things just had to happen just perfectly. Really shows evidence of a design. All these things had to happen, and they just happen randomly. All these things, on top of that, they did studies in the 50s trying to reproduce the life in a laboratory. They tried to do pre-human life experiments. I think they were called the Moore's experiments. They couldn't produce it in a lab. Now, if they couldn't do that in a controlled environment, how could it be done randomly? Is that rational? No, it's not rational. It's what they call faith. On top of that, you are choosing, let's just face it, belief in the Bible. There is eyewitness accounts of Jesus Christ. There's court documents of Jesus Christ. There is Josephus, a historian, also talked about Jesus Christ. There is so much evidence that Jesus was a real person. And obviously he affected the entire world. So at the very least, you can say, and the things that the Bible historically has been very accurate about these things. So let's wrap this all up. On top of this, most people that I talk to that have this quote-unquote rational mind that are atheists, they live in Western society that was founded on Christianity. The greatest civilization that's has ever become. If they truly believed in a rational mind and believe in atheists, why don't they live in a atheist or agnostic civilization? And that would be communism or socialism. Why do you live in the United States? Why don't you move to China, Cuba, North Korea? Why? Because there's a certain ethos that the Christianity, specifically Protestantism, has become. This whole idea of liberalism and critical thinking came specifically, the Enlightenment movement came specifically from Protestantism. Now, as things progressed, atheists and really communists have crept into the ethos and started teaching this critical anti-humanist humanist movement, which is really an anti-humanist movement, and also postmodernism. And we can go into I don't want to get too technical on where philosophies or ideas came from. That's not the point of this video. This point of this video was really talking about, is it rational? Is it logical to believe something unscientific that can't be reproduced, where you can trust, you know Western civilization, you know that it's the greatest civilizations ever existed, because it was built on Western Christianity. And you know that even if you don't believe that Christ was the Savior, you have to acknowledge that Christ was a real person. There's more evidence that Christ is a real person than Alexander the Great, and no one questions Alexander the Great. Even though there is a mythos about Alexander. Alexander's pretty interesting. You should look him up, but that's a whole nother conversation. So anyways, the point of the matter is, it's not rational to believe in something that's unscientific, can't be proven, which, unless you're just not thinking about the big question, which is bizarre. And let's just face it, if you're not thinking about the big question, which is, where did we come from, you have to at least acknowledge that all civilizations in the entire world ever since the dawn of man has always asked that question. So really the question is, why are you choosing not to believe in Christianity? That's really what the rational question is. Please continue to pray. Please continue to read the Bible. Please follow, like, and subscribe it. And please give your comments. I hope you learned something.